Imagine a motorcycle that looks like it rolled straight out of 1923 but rides like it was built yesterday. No screens, no fake retro gimmicks, just pure mechanical honesty wrapped in a fuel tank that looks like art. That's the BMW R NineT. And honestly, it's one of the coolest things BMW has ever made before this bike came along. If you wanted that classic, old-school look, you had to accept old-school performance too. BMW basically built the R NineT to look like the legendary R32 from a century ago while riding like a proper modern machine underneath. This bike genuinely changed what people expected from retro motorcycles. Let's talk about the heart of it, that 1170cc air and oil-cooled boxer twin. This isn't a watered-down engine pretending to be old school. BMW deliberately kept the older boxer alive here, and it shows. You get around 110 horsepower, instant grunt from low revs, a meaty mid-range, and a top-end rush that pushes this thing to roughly 135 miles per hour. No riding modes messing with your head, no electronics babysitting you, just you, the throttle, and that glorious boxer rumble. The exhaust note alone pops on the overrun and bellows when you crack it open. Now here's where it gets even better. The chassis is genuinely premium. We're talking forks borrowed straight from the S100RR Superbike, a well-sorted rear shock, and a low-slung frame that just begs you to lean it into corners. It's not the fastest steering bike out there, but once you're in a corner, it feels planted, confident, almost like the bike is pulling itself down into the bend for you. Ground clearance is generous too, so you can really push it on a twisty road without scraping anything embarrassing, but let's be real for a second, this bike isn't perfect. The seat is famously thin, almost every owner complains about it, so budget for an aftermarket seat. Wind protection is basically non-existent in stock form, so a cold motorway blast will quickly remind you there's no screen up front. Some owners find the front forks a bit too soft while the rear feels harsh, so if you're shopping used, check whether someone's already upgraded the suspension. Speaking of buying used, prices in 2026 for a well-looked after R NineT sit somewhere between £5,800 and £8,500 depending on condition and mileage. That's solid value for what you're getting. Keep an eye out for a few known issues though. Starter button failures are common but cheap and easy to fix. Some bikes show noticeable oil consumption, so check the service history carefully. The rear shock spring can get stone chipped over time. And if someone overfills the tank, fuel can back up and leak out the overflow. So check for staining around the tank area. There were also a couple of recalls worth knowing about, mostly affecting early 2014 models. Some had loose swing arm pivot pin bolts that needed retorquing, and a few had faulty ignition switches. Nothing dramatic, but worth asking the seller about if you're looking at an early bike. One thing that really stands out is the build quality. This isn't a bike where BMW cut corners to hit a price point. You've got forged aluminum brackets just for the front mudguard, deep paint finish, an alloy fuel tank, and details everywhere that remind you this was built to be premium. The frame paint can wear thin in spots and you'll want to watch for surface rust, but overall this bike ages really gracefully. BMW didn't just leave this thing alone either. For 2021, they gave it a proper update to meet Euro 5 regulations. Power dropped slightly to 108 horsepower, but torque stayed strong and the delivery got punchier in that 4,000 to 6,000 RPM range. They also added ride-by-wire, traction control to riding modes, cornering ABS, and LED lighting. It's still got that same raw boxer sole, just with a slightly thicker safety net if you want it. Funny thing is, the bike has so much natural grip and poise that most riders barely notice the electronics kicking in anyway. So is the R NineT still worth buying today in 2026? Honestly, yes, without a doubt, if what you want is character over spec sheets. This bike isn't about chasing lap times or flexing the latest tech. It's about how it makes you feel when you're riding it. It strips away the digital noise and gives you a pure, mechanical connection to the road. Owners describe it as ensuring every ride feels genuinely fun. and that reputation has held up remarkably well even years later. If you're someone who wants a motorcycle that feels alive, sounds incredible, handles beautifully, and turns heads everywhere you park it, the BMW R NineT deserves a serious look. It's not the cheapest retro on the market, and it's definitely not the most comfortable for long hauls without some accessories. But for pure riding joy and timeless style, very few bikes come close.